Do you really believe you won't get Alzheimer's disease? This is not the misfortune of a few. It is the result of years of toxic assaults on the brain. When dementia strikes, the ones who suffer most are not you, but your family. Now, listen carefully, because this message could save your future and your family's future.
We often think about dementia or hear about it as just this unavoidable part of getting old, right?
Yeah.
Something that, well, it just happens. But what if that whole picture is incomplete? What if it's not simply, bad luck? What if it's the end result of something else entirely? Something maybe more pervasive.
And something we might actually have a bit more influence over than we generally think.
Exactly.
That's really the challenging perspective we're diving into today. We're focusing on a piece called Master Insight, #155 by Fuchi Wu.
Okay.
And it puts forward this idea that dementia isn't some random misfortune, but rather, as Wu argues, it's the cumulative effect of long-term toxin exposure damaging the brain.
Right. So our mission for this deep dive is really to unpack that specific viewpoint, Wu's viewpoint, understand why he believes this is happening, and maybe most importantly, what this perspective could mean for you listening right now and for your future brain health.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay, so let's unpack this truly thought-provoking piece that suggests we might have a different kind of control over our brain health than we ever imagined.
Wu's core argument is surprisingly direct, really. He basically says dementia isn't just a natural part of aging. He challenges that. Or that it's just being unlucky.
Okay.
Instead, he presents it as, and this is his phrase, the result of long-term toxin attack on the brain. That really shifts the narrative, doesn't it?
It does. It moves it away from this passive thing that happens to us towards something with a potential identifiable cause.
Exactly. And crucial to his argument is why the brain specifically is so susceptible.
Right.
He points out that unlike, say, your liver or kidneys, which have robust detoxification systems, our brain, well, it does not have a strong detoxification system, according to him.
So your body's main control center is described as being quite vulnerable to these outside things.
That's the idea he puts forward. And he gets specific about the types of toxins he's concerned about. Things like heavy metals, these ultrafine particles, and pesticide residues.
Okay, those sound familiar, unfortunately.
Yeah. And here's the critical consequence, according to Wu's insight. Neurons, once damaged, cannot regenerate. This, he argues, is the fundamental reason memory, judgment, all those cognitive functions are taken away little by little.
Okay, so it's not like these are some kind of exotic, rare poisons then. He seems to be saying they're, well, everywhere.
Pretty much. He argues they are everywhere in our environment. And he gives some really concrete, everyday examples, like think about the air you breathe.
Okay.
He talks about countless invisible ultrafine particles in the air. These are particles so incredibly tiny, way smaller than dust,
Right.
that they can apparently bypass our lungs, natural filters, pass through the lungs, directly enter the bloodstream.
Directly into the blood.
Yeah, according to the source. And then finally, they can reach the brain.
Wow.
And it doesn't stop with the air. Wu also points his finger at chronic exposure from really common items, things like aluminum cookware, plastic bottled water, and processed foods.
Stuff many of us use or consume daily.
Exactly. And what he stresses is the insidious nature of it. He says, this damage is not felt until one day brain function begins to collapse.
So it's like this silent, creeping thing happening over potentially years, decades.
That's the picture he paints. A slow assault that just builds and builds.
Which leads us to his concept of dementia being like a toxin saturation point.
Yeah, that's a striking way he puts it. He suggests that in the early stages, this toxin accumulation might just show up as, forgetfulness, maybe trouble concentrating.
Things easily dismissed maybe as just getting old.
Right. We've all heard that or maybe even said it. But the critical point, Wu warns, is when these accumulated toxins exceed the critical point, saturation point.
Okay, the tipping point.
That's when, according to him, the nervous system starts suffering large-scale dysfunction. And he describes this state as becoming almost irreversible.
Almost irreversible. That's heavy.
It is. And then in the late stage, it progresses to organ gradual decline, memory, emotion, and behavior completely out of control. The warning here from the author is incredibly stark. Once the saturation point is exceeded, you can never go back.
Wow. Never go back. Okay, so this perspective then shifts, doesn't it, towards the human cost. And this is where Wu's writing gets really personal.
It does. He shares some harrowing anecdotes from his own family experience, specifically about his father-in-law and also a friend's father.
What kind of things does he describe?
He talks about specific behaviors that are just heartbreaking. Patients wandering from home without knowing how to return, or not even remembering their own name, their phone number.
Yeah, that's tough.
And Wu really emphasizes the huge pain and the constant anxiety this causes for the family members. He says every day is a torment for them. He even makes the grim observation that patients in this state often leave the world earlier than others.
And then he makes this really provocative claim, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But who truly suffers the most?
Yes, it's possibly one of the starkest points in the piece. He claims people with Alzheimer's forget everything themselves and feel almost no pain.
Almost no pain themselves.
Right. But in sharp contrast, Wu asserts it's their families bear the deepest torment.
Yeah.
It forces you to think about the burden differently.
Yeah, absolutely. How does he elaborate on that family burden?
He paints a painful picture. The daily worry you'll walk out and never return, the agony of watching someone you gradually lose yourself, helpless, and how the entire family gets dragged down by the demands of care and just constant anxiety. It really drives home his central message on this point. Dementia's greatest pain is not for the patient, but for every member of the family.
That's a really sobering perspective. And he doesn't stop there, right? He talks about what happens if the family just can't cope anymore.
No, he doesn't pull punches. The source warns quite brutally that if family support breaks down, you will be left to wander the streets, starve to death, or live by scavenging.
That's a truly bleak picture he paints.
It is, and it connects to another important point he raises, the specific risk for elderly people living alone.
Yeah. What does he say about that?
He calls it a fatal risk.
Yeah.
He mentions specific dangers like forgetting to eat consistently or maybe forgetting to turn off the gas stove, things that could lead to starvation or accidental death at home.
Oh, gosh.
And the tragic reality he highlights is that in those situations, potentially no one discovers, no one takes care of them, and they end their lives alone.
Which underscores that painful truth that, well, not everyone has family to take care of them when something like dementia strikes.
Precisely.
So given this really alarming perspective from Wu, what does he suggest we can actually do? He must shift towards solutions, right?
He does. He strongly emphasizes the urgency of prevention. His critical piece of advice is basically, don't wait until symptoms appear, because by then it's too late. According to his model of irreversibility, past the saturation point.
Right, that saturation point again. So prevention is key in his view. What does that look like?
He details some immediate actionable steps focused on reducing that toxin exposure we talked about. He advises, quite broadly, to reduce all toxins you would inhale, eat, and drink daily.
Okay, so being mindful of
What?
The processed foods, the cookware, the plastic bottles he mentioned.
Exactly, those things. But he puts a major focus on air quality, too. He suggests that living in a nearly 100% pure air environment long-term is crucial to prevent ultrafine particles from continuously entering the brain.
A nearly 100% pure air environment.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds challenging for most people. Does he offer specifics on how to achieve that?
He does get into specific solutions he advocates for. For instance, he mentions a system he calls the Air 6 Nomes purification system.
Okay, what's that supposed to do?
He claims it's designed to lock all invisible toxins in the electrostatic precipitator maze box and prevent re-release. An electrostatic precipitator basically uses electric charges to trap particles out of the air.
I see. So technology is part of the prevention strategy he outlines.
Yes, that seems to be a component of his recommended approach.
Which brings us back, then, to the conclusion of his master insight. How does he wrap this all up?
He really reiterates the high stakes involved. He states, quite bluntly, Alzheimer's is not a trial you can afford to fail.
Not a trial you can afford to fail. Powerful wording.
And he hammers home that point about the family burden again, saying that once failure occurs, meaning dementia takes hold, you yourself feel nothing, but your family will bear endless pain and stress.
It's a profound and, frankly, quite sobering thought to really sit with. The impact isn't just on the individual.
It ripples outwards, deeply affecting everyone close, according to this perspective, which really raises an important question for you, our listener. Given this viewpoint from Fuchi Wu, this focus on toxins and prevention, Well, what steps might you consider taking today, not just for yourself, but thinking about the future well-being of your family, too?
Yeah, it's a truly crucial deep dive, isn't it? Really urging us, perhaps, to think differently about how we safeguard ourselves and those we care about most. Definitely something powerful for you to mull over.